Your behaviour is the only behaviour over which you have absolute control. To change your children's behaviour, you first need to change your own. In the most difficult moments, your behaviour is the difference between chaos and calm. It is the gap between strategies failing or succeeding. It sets the climate for the entire home. Your behaviour is so important that it puts every other factor into a firm second place. When the parents change, everything changes is not just a groovy title. It is the central principle you need to save your child's sanity and your own. Without it, nothing else will matter. That doesn't mean you need to become a different human being overnight. This isn't a magic behaviour solution, but there are deliberate, strategic tweaks you can make in your behaviour towards your child that will in turn transform theirs towards you. When the parents change, everything changes. That change can start today. The beginning. Before I was a parent, I was a teacher. A primary school teacher first, working on short-term contracts in East London. The children were lovely, but the schools were under-resourced and struggling. Every Friday, I would scour the job section in the education press, looking for something more permanent. Of course, I was a dreamer, and enjoyed thinking of what might be if I could escape from the porter cabins of 90s Newham and launch myself out into the world. I would start by going straight to jobs that were furthest afield. Every distant land was there. Jamaica, Bermuda, Canada, Wigan. Soon, I moved on to the more realistic sections of the classifieds, until one day I saw a job that looked perfect. If only I was a little more experienced. It was a head of department role in a secondary school in the West Midlands. I was desperately underqualified. Naturally, I immediately resolved to apply. Fighting through the discouraging cries of my colleagues, "You aren't qualified for that. It's a job in a secondary school. What do you know about that?" etc. I fired off my CV. 72 hours later, the head teacher called me at home. "You must come to interview," he said. Basking in the soft glow of his enthusiasm and of refuting my naysaying colleagues, I got into my car and drove north. Proper north, beyond Harrow and even the distant lights of Wembley. The job was in a small town near Birmingham. A Londoner born and bred, I had no idea what to expect, but when I arrived in the school car park, it looked innocent enough. Pebble Dash outhouses, brutalist concrete, all as Grange Hill as you could get. I was met in the reception by the head teacher. As he shook my hand warmly, he seemed inexplicably pleased to see me. He told me that the 6 other candidates had withdrawn from the interview process that morning. Yes, I thought. The doors of fate were finally opening. I was ushered briskly into a bare interview room without being shown around the school. They asked me 3 questions, and within 10 minutes had offered me the job. I was a head of department, in a secondary school. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Feeling the warmth of unexpected triumph, I decided that before returning to London, I should drive around the estate that the school served. This was my new turf, after all. It was at this point that I realised why the other 6 candidates had withdrawn. They had had the foresight to take this drive before arriving at the school, and must have driven straight home afterwards. I had landed myself in one of the worst performing schools in England, 11% pass rate at GCSE, on the doorstep of one of the most notorious housing estates in the United Kingdom, in a pocket of raw poverty that ran generations deep.